Hey guys, I'm back, and with me, another speed art. This one is of course Beetlejuice himself, so this year saw the release of Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, the eagerly anticipated sequel to the 1988 cult classic, well, Beetlejuice. But after many false starts and other scripts written, was this movie worth the wait? I'm gonna look at 5 aspects of the new film and compare it with the original, see if Beetlejuice will become its own classic, or if it was maybe only good for a one-time watch. At number 5 we have acting. Both films star Michael Keaton as the titular anti-hero and co-star Winona Ryder and Catherine O'Hara as the co-leads. The first film's plot revolves around Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis, who play a young couple that have to navigate letting go of their former lives as they enter the afterlife, while mentoring the young girl who has moved into their former house. The sequel adds Willem Dafoe, Justin Theroux, and Jenna Ortega, just to mention a few, to the cast, in a film which involves around Jenna Ortega's character falling for a local boy who brings her into the afterlife, and her mom, again played by Winona Ryder, teams up with Beetlejuice to save her. Overall, both casts do a great job in their respective roles. Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis are somewhat missed in the second film, but the passage of time wouldn't allow them to appear as ageless ghosts anymore. While the additions of Jenna Ortega and Willem Dafoe to the roster add a lot of spark to this new entry, although I found Justin Theroux's performance to be somewhat phoned in. Although that may just be because of a late film surprise reveal, but his parts seem to drag the film down overall. But nonetheless, people are here for Beetlejuice, and Michael Keaton knocked it out of the park both times. While he's obviously younger and more energetic in the original, he returns to the character perfectly and embodies it so well once again, so the acting in both are nearly on par. Number 4 is something we were all looking forward to seeing in the new film, and that is how they planned on executing the special effects. And thankfully, they delivered on the goods. While the first film's effects were largely practical sets or stop motion, which gives the world a cozy handmade sort of feel, the new film blends modern CGI with practical and stop motion effects, still giving this film a cozy feel, although with a higher budget and passage of time, the effects look even more seamless and clearly more high def for this latest entry. Because of this attention to detail, the film will probably stand the test of time along with the original film in terms of effects. Number 3 is direction and cinematography. While both films are directed by Tim Burton, the original film was one of the director's first films, and this latest entry comes long after his heyday. But does he still have the steady hand to pull this film together? And well, the answer is yes. While the first film has a steady direction throughout, and Burton clearly loves the weirdness of the afterlife, which he amps up in this inclusion in the franchise, but the best directed scene in both films is probably the flashback scene in the latest entry about Beetlejuice's pre-ghost life, directed almost like an avant-garde black and white film. I sort of wish the new film took a few more swings like that, but both films are wonderfully shot. The first film's cinematographer, Thomas E. Ackerman, also shot Jumanji, Christmas Vacation, and Moonwalker, so he had an eye for comedic and dynamic shots, especially noticeable in the last half of the first film. While the new film's cinematographer, Harris Zamboloskos, has a more cinematic style, having shot previously The Meg 2, Cinderella, and Murder on the Orient Express. These more sweeping shots are much more complicated in the new film, although still feel like they fit in the style with the previous, so really you can't go wrong with the direction and composition in either film. Number 2 is the story. Now, the plot of the first one was a pretty simple story told through the lens of 2 recently deceased that accidentally entangle themselves with Beetlejuice as he uses their unwanted new homeowner's daughter to try to leave the afterlife through a forced marriage. The new film has a few different plots going on. The first one involves the family coming back to bury their recently deceased father. Winona Ryder's character has since had a daughter of her own, lost a husband, and is dating a new person who happens to be her producer on her haunted television show. She accepts a proposal from him, all the while her daughter runs off and gets tangled up with a ghost, who plans to use her to leave the afterlife himself. While this is happening, Beetlejuice's ex-wife is hunting him down and leaving many souls sucked in her wake, leading to Willem Dafoe's detective character tracking her throughout the film. Eventually, Beetlejuice agrees to help get Winona Ryder's character's daughter out of the afterlife if she'll go through with a new marriage proposal. So the second movie's plot is a little bit of a mess and has a lot going on. While the first film allows you to breathe and just live in the world, the second film seems much more rushed, has multiple plots that could probably have been cut or others fleshed out to make a more cohesive story. The 2024's film's writers were much more used to writing for TV, and their bloated script shows this, as really this could have been a 6-part miniseries if each part was given more time. But as it is, this is probably the weakest part of the new film, especially in comparison to the much more stripped down original. But the most important part to any comedy film is the humor, and thankfully both entries are actually pretty funny. While the first film's humor is maybe a little raunchy or inappropriate by today's standards, it's still really funny and all the actors play their parts really well. The new film probably has more jokes than the first, and while not all the jokes land, the ones that do work well. While the film itself is bloated, the humor helps to hold it all together and make sure I'm never bored watching it. Michael Keaton delivers his lines and his slapstick physical humor in a way he could only. And the deadpan delivery of the supporting cast in both films helped to sell and ground this world as genuine despite its wackiness. Does the new film hold a candle to the original? Well, yes. It's an enjoyable, although messy film that falls apart somewhat with a loose script. But the things that work well and help to elevate it above other franchise sequel reboots work really well. Will it become an enduring all-time cult classic? Well, that remains to be seen, but if you rewatch the first film every year, you can make it a double feature every now and then with this new film and have a good time. There's clearly still a little magic left in Tim Burton's strange and odd afterlife. So what are your thoughts on the new Beetlejuice film? Let me know down below. Before I sign off, I want to thank Henry Granberg for supporting the Patreon recently, as well as all my other supporters. And until next time, I've been Aaron, and I'll tell you something later.